Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another podcast. I am Dr. Zaleha Keskin. I lecture in Islamic spirituality, and I have Dr. Omer Atilla Ergi with me. He lectures in theology. He's also a physicist. And today's topic is very important, I believe, at least it was in my life, trying to understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the universe in the first place. We usually go straight into why did Allah create human beings? What does He want from us? What's our purpose? But let's take a step back. If we say God exists, but why did He create the universe?
Yes.
What do you say on this? Firstly, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Yes, it is a philosophically, challenging and theologically challenging topic as well. But it requires answers. There's no doubt, because we always, say that Islam has answers to everything, because it's, complete religion. It encompasses everything. So there is an answer to that as well. Why did God create the universe? The people usually ask this question from the perspective of, God does not need anything because He doesn't have needs. And we know in the Quran, He is Samed, Allahu Samed. We say it means that everything needs Him. He does not need anything. But He also has the attribute, the sifat of qiyamu bi nafsi, meaning that self-sustaining. He's not contingent, because only contingent beings require, external support to exist or to sustain themselves. So if God does not need any of these things, why did He, create the universe? But one of the first things that comes to my mind, an artist paints.
Right.
We don't say to, for example, Leonardo da Vinci, why did you paint the Mona Lisa? Was there a need for you? It wasn't really a need. Because he had that talent, he displayed it. So it is not out of a need, because the talent needs to be manifested, not out of a need. Because that's what artists do. And we can use this comparison to many other things. A singer sings, for example.
So you're saying it's a natural outcome when you have a particular skill or a particular quality, it naturally manifests itself. It's not because you need to manifest it, it just happens.
Yes, it just happens. Another thing, can we, although this does not apply to God from a theological sense, but, if someone is an artist, like I said before, and never painted, can you call that person an artist? Never painted in his life. It wouldn't make sense, the names and attributes of Allah are manifesting because He possesses those names. But in regards to the need issue, when they say if He doesn't need anything, then why would He create it? I remember years ago in one university, I was at a seminar. The topic was, on humanity, really. Who am I? Where do I come from? And where am I heading?
Wow.
And the organizers specifically chose this topic, not a directly religious topic, but it was more like a theological, to make people ponder. And during that seminar, I gave many examples, philosophical, scientific and theological. But one person asked this question. He said, if God is, not in need of anything, then why would He create us and the universe, And this thing that popped down into my mind just there instantly, alhamdulillah, it was a very interesting thing, because I tried to explain it according to the classical scholars' views. Some of them say that God is a hidden treasure. He was a hidden treasure. He wanted to be known. But then, they come back with the term want. If God is wanting something, desiring something, then that's still still sounds like a need.
Okay.
And I said to this person, very simple answer, really, when you think about it. I said, God has the name or attribute of creator. What does a creator do? Creates. So God created the universe because He's a creator. It's a direct answer when you think about it. Creator creates. So that made really sense to the person too. Because if you have certain attribute, like we mentioned before, then that attribute automatically manifests. So God created the universe because he has that ability. So that ability, that talent was manifested.
So with that, that seems like the way you're explaining quite a distinct difference. Is that because you're removing the idea of that Allah needs or what and something, He's in need? Is that what is that the key element of this?
Yes, it is, because we know, that's one of the fundamental teachings of Islam. When we look at the Kalam teachings, which is theology,
Yeah.
one of the main things that Allah is not in need of anything. And that is what differs Allah from the rest of the creation, because God's supposed to be not in need of anything. Before the universe was created, he was always there. He was beginningless and he's endless. So a being, an agent like that, automatically you would say, he wouldn't need anything. Why would he need anything?
So two things come to my mind. Then it's kind of, this is where analogies can be very, very powerful. They really help us to understand, and it's like a light bulb moment. But the analogy of, say, the artist. I guess this is where we can be projecting on Allah, as we say,
Yes, yes.
on God, where
Yes.
it's like we need to show our skills, so we might. But then Allah doesn't need that. It just manifests
Yes.
because He has these names and attributes. Would you agree with that?
Yes, yes. He doesn't really need it, But even, when you project the human qualities, there are certain things that human beings don't need, but they do. I think that's important too. Like, for example, someone is in need of, let us say, they're in poverty, they need, to survive, and they're begging, let us say. If you go and give charity to that person, can the person say to you, are you in need of giving me this? Why did you give me this? No, because you want to support that person. You want to help that person, not because you need it yourself. So one of the names of Allah is Rezzaq, as you know, the sustainer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another one that comes to mind is compassion. Like when we show compassion towards, say, a child or anyone, we don't show compassion because we need to. It just comes out because it's within us. It's like, I suppose, it's like the light. You've got this light, and it's going to naturally emit light. The sun naturally emits light because of what it is.
Yes, you just don't say, why is it emitting light?
It needs to.
Because it's part of its, the essence.
Yeah.
And with compassion too, one thing came to my mind, because sometimes people question that as well. And even with, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, how they say all merciful, all compassionate. But if you look at the term compassion, it comes from Latin. And you look at the etymology, it sort of doesn't suit Allah, really. Because compassion, as you know, it is like, having the understanding of what that person is feeling or suffering with that person.
Co-suffering.
Co-suffering, yeah. So it doesn't really perfectly match. That's why, I really would prefer not to use that term for Allah, because Allah doesn't suffer, God doesn't suffer. Mercy is more perfect, to define Allah. But as you said, our language is really limited to describe Allah, isn't it? Yeah.
It's interesting, just on that point of compassion, someone sent me an email the other day saying, I don't understand how in Islamic theology the word compassion can make sense because of the reason you said. It means that there's co-suffering, whereas we know that from Allah's perspective, He doesn't suffer. He doesn't suffer, but He heals suffering. He offers suffering benefit to sufferers.
Yes.
And like you said, I think language can be a huge limitation sometimes, where we're trying to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our human language, with our human mind.
Yes.
And although, yes, we can, there's a lot of learning that can happen, there can also be limitations.
Yeah, I think that's where the problem is, understanding Allah, because we know, like the famous statement by Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, the first Khalifa and the beloved friend of the noble Prophet. He says, not comprehending you is comprehension. So the essence of Allah, I don't know if it's the right term, but Allah himself can never be known because he is beyond matter, he's beyond energy, he's beyond time. We cannot even imagine Allah. One famous theologian says, no matter how you imagine God, he is not like that. So from his person perspective, that perspective, he cannot be known. That is why we always try to understand his names and attributes. That's how we get to know him. So in order to understand this, we use terms like you said, compassion, because we have no other terms to use there. But in reality, yes, Allah does not suffer. Allah does not feel like, human suffering or pain. But I don't know if this is the right term to use, but empathy is a different thing, when we feel
It is.
empathy. And I think because we are his creation, he knows exactly what we feel. If we suffer, he knows exactly what suffering is, of course, because he created everything. So from that perspective, he knows. We cannot say, just say he doesn't suffer and just get it out of the way. It doesn't work,
Yeah.
I think that's the way we should look at it. And which we should try to understand it. Like another thing that came to my mind, people put God equal to, especially people who disbelieve, but there are some people who are deists and other people too, they do this, they put God equal to his creation. They think, that the God has qualities as same as his creation. And that's where they get stuck, like when people say, in regards to causality, when we say everything has a cause, because that's how the universe works, that's physics, But when you come to the creation of the universe, that causes end, then you need a cause to cause the universe. And we say that cause is God. And then someone comes out and say, then who caused God? So then you are equating God to causality. You're putting him into that, the chain of causality, which doesn't work. But I never forget this, like the example that I gave before in regards to that seminar I had. It was in La Trobe University. There were a few people there. There were international students studying. They're doing their masters. Two of them, wanted to know more. They were non-Muslims, And I said to them, look, we have these circles, that halakas, we discuss these things. If you want, you can attend and ask questions. And they came, two of them,
Okay.
And at one stage, one of them asked this question, it always bothers me. He goes, if there is God, then who created God? Who caused God? And something very interesting happened there, and it's the miracle of the prophet, that's what I think.
Yeah.
There was about 30 people in the room. And I said to this person, do you know that there is a hadith by the noble prophet, ﷺ, where he says to the Sahaba, to the companions, that one day in the future, a person will come, he will cross his legs when he's sitting and say who created God. This is a hadith, 1400 years ago. And out of the 30 people in the room, that guy was the only one with the crossed
Cross
legs.
legs. Oh, wow.
He even looked at his son. He was shocked too. And the people started laughing,
Yeah.
And I said, there you go. The miracle is there.
Fascinating.
And then I explained to him, causality doesn't work like that because physics is to do with causes. God does not need a cause because he's not a contingent being. He always existed. It's a long, of course, arguments there, but he, sort of accepted it. So I think that's where the origin of the problem is. People trying to project God or human-like God, anthropomorphism. That's where they make the mistake.
Right.
They think there's this man, Harsha, sitting up there in the clouds, like a big king and ruling and running everything.
Yes.
And sometimes even Muslims make that mistake too, although they don't give God human qualities, but they come close. Some of them, they make that mistake, with, Allah is sitting on the throne and things like that, in the Quran, Al Arshil Istiva. And they do that, make that, wrong mistakes there, I think, yeah.
That's very true. And as a side note, I see this especially when, people want to ask Allah for forgiveness, and they, in a way, they say Allah will not forgive me for this. I see that as, in a way, they're projecting their own
Yeah.
unforgiving nature onto Allah.
Yeah.
And that's offensive to Allah, because Allah is all merciful, all forgiving, which means His forgiveness is infinite if you ask Him for forgiveness. But we limit that forgiveness because we
Yes,
have
yes.
limited, it's limited how much we are willing to forgive others.
We compare to our own understanding of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we do project our feelings too.
We do.
But like you said, because Allah's compassion, mercy, unlimited. So, how can you say He won't forgive me? It's a very wrong thing,
That's right. You're basically saying, Allah, your forgiveness capacity is limited. That's why you won't forgive me. I don't think when people say that they realize the implications,
Yes, yes.
but really that's what's happening.
Yes, yes.
Okay, now that we've kind of agreed, or we've discussed that Allah created the universe, and He didn't have to, He didn't need to,
No.
because He doesn't need anything. He's as-samad. Why? I guess we can speculate, but
Why
maybe
create
why?
us?
Yeah, why did He create the universe?
Mhm.
Can we ask that question even?
Yes, we can, because one of the reasons, well, as I said, the classical scholars said He wanted to be known. Maybe we can remove the term want from there. It is not want. Maybe He willed.
Yes.
He willed to be known. That's a different thing then, because that's not a need anymore.
Yeah.
But when you think about all of these living beings that Allah created, because the universe is not limited to humans, sometimes we make that mistake. We think that we are so great as human beings, and we make this mistake because mainly of the words, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. He created us in the most beautiful, forms.
Right.
And people say human beings are the most beautiful of all creation, But there's a serious problem there, because some scholars like Elmal al-Hamdi, as a famous scholar, he says that, tafsir scholar, he says that verse is in connection or relevant to this world, he says.
I see.
All the beings living in this world, not the universe, because there is another verse in the Quran where Allah says, we have favored the sons of Adam above most of our creation, not all. So there are creations that may be above us. That's what the Quran is saying there. And also, we've been around for maybe 200,000 years, Homo sapiens, human beings. But the universe has been around for 13.8 billion years. The latest data, that's what it shows. That is a long time. So there must have been other creatures, that Allah created before us. We know angels, jinns, but there may be other creatures too, intelligent creatures as well. So we can look at that question from that perspective, because only intelligent beings who have free will can understand Allah. So if Allah wanted to be known, then only these beings can know Allah. If they don't have intellect, they cannot know Allah, because this is what is required of us as well as human beings, to study His names and attributes so we can get to know Him. So maybe that is the only way to get to know Him. But the Quran says in regards to us, also jinns too, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have created the humans and the jinns so that they may get to know me and worship me.
Okay.
So that answers it in a way, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it does. So can we say then the universe was created for the human beings, or it's
All intelligent beings, maybe.
intelligent beings? Okay.
Yeah, we can say that, I think, yeah. So, because otherwise Allah won't be known. If there weren't angels, if there weren't jinns, if there weren't humans, perhaps other intelligent beings, we don't know. Allah won't be known then. Otherwise non-intelligence cannot detect Allah, can they? No.
And again, it's not that I guess I'm getting stuck maybe on semantics. It's not that He wanted to be known, He chose to be known. It's like that, going back to that artist who draws painting.
Yeah.
You can draw a painting and not show it to anyone. There's a lot of artists who've done that. There is musicians.
It's not out of need, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. But then they choose to share it with people.
Yeah.
And so Allah chose, we could say, therefore, then the conscious beings or intelligent beings to be
Some
able
don't
to
even
see.
share, that. They paint beautiful, art.
probably so.
I know
Hidden away.
I know a few people. I said to this person, why don't you just go to the exhibition, exhibit your art, No, it doesn't feel like. It's just they want to paint, you know. But one more thing that came to my mind, I think this is very important too. You know how we said it's not out of a need, but there's a very important thing there. As we said, Allah has names and attributes.
Yes.
So one example we gave, like Allah is the creator. Well, creator creates, we said. Allah is Razzaq, sustainer. Well, if he didn't create the universe and living beings, who's going to benefit from his name, sustainer? You know, Allah is Shafi, heals illnesses. If there was no anyone ever got sick, then what happens to that name? You know what I mean? So there are a number of names like that. Well, one of the most important one, as we mentioned, Rahman and Rahim. You know? So who is going to benefit from that mercy if there was no creation? So those names, necessitates creation.
Right.
So it's not need, but it is a reflection of those names
Or a
or
natural
manifest
outcome in a
natural
way
outcome of those
of
names.
having those names. For those names
Yes.
to manifest,
Mm.
for those names to manifest, you need circumstances. Like as you said, as Shafi, you can't
Yes.
unless there's illnesses. That name will never. If everyone's healthy 100% of the time,
No, nothing
no,
meaning to that
no
name.
name Shafi
Yeah.
or forgiveness. If no one committed sins, then the name,
Yes.
Al-Ghafur would never
Yeah.
manifest because there's
Yes.
nothing to forgive. So these names
Necessitates
necessitate these
creation.
states
Yeah.
and this creation.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
powerful.
And one of the main things that scholars emphasize is Allah created the universe and human beings, all living beings, because of His name Rahman. Because yes, he had this mercy, and that mercy needed to be manifested. And our creation is a manifestation of that mercy. But moreover, sometimes I ask this to people too, from a philosophical perspective, you know, is there any problem with us being, exist?
So
What's wrong with existence? It's beautiful.
it is.
And we aren't we very happy that he created us, the universe, because universe life is beautiful. Who's complaining about the existence? So sometimes that there's a problem even in the question as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just want, before we wrap up, another point that really was a paradigm shift or a light bulb moment was for me was the existence of the angels, because we talk about, especially when we focus on science, it's like the earth is so small. Humans, they kind of imply that humans are very not they all, but that humans are just so little in the scheme of things.
Yes.
And the existence of angels was a very powerful reminder to me of their role, in that things that we as human beings cannot see and witness, they are able to. So
Yes.
nothing goes
Yes.
unnoticed, nothing goes unadored in a way. And go deep into the ocean where there's no life, potentially like physical life as we know it. But there are angels everywhere that are witnessing and adoring and worshipping Allah because of what they're witnessing.
Yes, yes. Just like we said before, when we go to an art exhibition, let us say, in the city or something, sometimes they have those big art exhibitions. Bring paintings from Europe and places like that. And I always used to say in a humorous way, who goes to those art exhibitions? Art critics, people who know what art is. We never witness, for example, a goat or a camel, walking into the art exhibition, looking at the paintings, with the goat especially has a
No,
beard, the goat goes like, that's Rembrandt, doesn't happen.
doesn't happen.
That is why intelligent beings are needed to understand that art. And the universe is a magnificent art when you think about it, but it's so big. Currently they say about 2 trillion galaxies. That's huge. The Earth is not even an atom within the universe, and human beings, very limited, like you said. So existence of angels is so significant, like you said. And jinns too,
Engines, yes.
Some people think jinns are on Earth only, that we don't see. No, I don't think so. I think they live in different realms, to be honest. But besides, this is my view, beside angels and the jinns, I believe there are other intelligent beings throughout the universe. Allah must have created them because they can observe the art there in their own worlds, and they can also understand and acknowledge the greatness of Allah. So I believe he has created many intelligent beings throughout the universe. That's my view.
Wow. So nothing goes unnoticed.
Unnoticed, yes.
And nothing goes unwitnessed. Thank you for another enlightening discussion, Dr. Omer Atilla Ergi. Looking forward to other discussions with you. Again, if you have any particular topic you would like us to cover, please put in the comment section. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum.